Tonight, major changes to SU London this fall. Find out what the university is doing and how this affects program fees. Plus, students who were abroad this semester are starting to see their refunds, but may not be getting as much as they had hoped. We'll tell you why. And the university says they've lost $35 million in revenue due to COVID-19. University leaders are offering to take a 10% pay cut. But how does it compare to other universities across the country? We'll have the details up next.
We have to put together a tracing army.
New out of New York State, Governor Cuomo launching a new nation-leading contact tracing program. How this will help combat the spread of COVID-19 and the latest update on confirmed cases. All that and more coming up. Your Citrus TV news update starts right now. Some big changes to SU London's fall program. The center sending this email to students earlier today, stating that program dates have been pushed back to October 1st through December 19th. Good evening, I'm Greg Bradbury. Coursework and an online pre-arrival review will begin on September 15th in the wake of these changes. The program fee has been reduced from $8,000 to $5,500. Students will still live in flats around the city, be able to intern, and have university field trips available to them. Meanwhile, students who were abroad this semester are starting to see their refunds. SU Abroad says that all recoverable expenses will be available in your bursar account today. Students have reported adjustments varying from $250 to almost $2,000. SU Abroad says the adjustments vary by program based on the terms and conditions of local agreements. They say students who stayed in the Madrid housing complex or London flats received lower refunds because the contracts did not afford refunds. Homestay families were more flexible with refunds. As for main campus students, they are beginning to see their reimbursements, but the process could take up to 8 weeks from when you filled out your request form. In a new statement today, SU says that student refunds and credits account for roughly 75% of the $35 million of lost revenue. To help offset this, SU's chancellor, provost, and senior vice president are taking a 10% pay cut. Here's where SU sits in comparison to other universities' leaders. Harvard president, vice president, and provost are all taking a 25% cut. Stanford's president and provost are each taking a 20% cut. University of Southern California's president is taking a 20% pay cut, while the provost and the senior vice president take a 10% cut. And at the University of Missouri, senior officials are taking a 10% cut. In addition to those mentioned earlier, SU's vice chancellors, senior vice presidents, deans, and some athletic coaches will also be taking a pay cut. Next tonight, the Carrier Dome roof is one step closer to completion. You can see the crane lifting the final piece of the truss into place. SU said the new construction projects will be put on hold because of coronavirus, but the dome will not be impacted. Vice President and Chief Facilities Officer Pete Salas says the dome construction is still on schedule. While we don't know when sports will return to the dome, what we do know is sports are returning. Tomorrow night, the NFL Draft is taking place. Joining me now is Citrus TV's PJ Clark, host of Mr. Irrelevant, a draft podcast. PJ, what can we expect from former SU players?
Well, Greg, I think there's going to be 4 SU guys to keep an eye on this weekend. First, the lock to get drafted defensive end, Alton Robinson. I have a round 3 grade on him. I expect him to go in round 4 on Saturday afternoon. Then his counterpart on the defensive line, Kendall Coleman. I don't think he gets picked, but this is the guy you want on your football team. High character guy, 4-year starter, priority free agent as UDFAs roll around on Sunday. Now, Tristan Jackson is really intriguing. 11 touchdowns his first year and only year in orange. This is a guy that I think goes late round 5, early round 6 on Saturday. And finally, the GOAT himself, Sterling Hoffrichter, the best punter in the country, led the country in hang time. Sterling gets picked round 7. Those are the 4 SU guys that you need to keep an eye on this weekend.
All right, thanks, PJ. Tomorrow you can tune into their live draft show starting at 7:30 on Citrus TV's YouTube. And just like sports, many festivals are getting either postponed or canceled. The 2020 Taste of Syracuse Festival has officially been canceled. The 2-day event was scheduled to take place June 5th and 6th in Clinton Square. Organizers say they considered postponing or implementing social distancing measures, but ultimately made their decision for the safety of attendees. Taste of Syracuse typically draws 200,000 visitors. The festival is now speaking with local vendors and bands about the possibility of having a virtual event. Now to the latest on the deadly global pandemic as COVID-19 cases intensify throughout the country and across the globe. California confirming its first death from the virus was weeks before the first reported U.S. death. This information painting a clearer picture as to how the virus was spreading in its early stages. Meanwhile, Georgia is set to reopen many of its businesses on Friday, one of the most aggressive efforts by a state to reopen its economy. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp will allow massage parlors, bowling alleys, gyms, hair and nail salons, and more to reopen. Restaurants and theaters will be able to resume on Monday while following certain social distancing requirements. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt also announced earlier today that the state will follow in similar fashion, calling for hair salons, spas, nail salons, and pet groomers to open their doors again come Friday. Meanwhile, in Onondaga County, 28 new cases have been confirmed in the last 24 hours, the highest spike in new cases in 3 weeks. County Executive Ryan McMahon explained this by pointing to the county's new proactive testing strategy. There's now more aggressive testing in assisted living homes in order to prevent an outbreak. In the county, overall numbers have been trending down. There were no deaths in the last 24 hours and 7 people have recovered. Speaking on the reopening of the economy, McMahon warns that even though the shelter-in-place order has been lifted, social distancing is still the key to an eventual economic restart.
I understand there's anxiety related to restart. Some people think that we should have restarted already. The data, the worst case data has been incorrect. We didn't have these horrible peaks that many predicted. That's true, and we're very lucky for that. But part of why we're lucky that never happened here is because of the actions that this community has taken.
And some hopeful news out of New York State as numbers are on a decline.
We're in a relatively good place. In downstate New York, the curve is on the descent. The question is now, how long is that descent?
Unfortunately, hundreds of lives still lost on a day-to-day basis. Yesterday's death toll was 474.
The number of lives lost is still breathtakingly painful, and the worst news that I have to deliver every day. At least it's not going up anymore, and it seems to be on a gentle decline.
The governor also announcing that New York is launching a testing and tracing program with Connecticut and New Jersey.
It is an intimidating exercise. But I say, so what? We have to put together a tracing army.
Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg has also volunteered to help with the program, joining Johns Hopkins University, Vital Strategies, and medical students from SUNY and CUNY schools. And today marks the 50th annual celebration of Earth Day. Planned climate action protests have been forced to go on virtually as millions around the globe stay home. Meanwhile, outside, the Earth seems to be reacting to the change in human activity. Cities and countries are seeing air and water pollution levels plummet. We asked some of you to send in your favorite pictures of the planet. Here are some of the responses that we got. It's so important to, especially now, to appreciate the little things in life, just being outside when we can and enjoying the weather. Whether that's some late April snow showers or the warm California sun, we certainly do appreciate the Earth, and that's all the time we have for you on tonight's news update. As always, make sure to follow along with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Plus, check out our website at CitrusTV.com. I'm Greg Bradbury. Have a great night and stay safe.